I'm so excited because I have Jennifer Allen here on the podcast today. Jennifer, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing really good. I've been really excited about this opportunity to speak with you. The two main tracks that I want to take you down is one, I'd love to hear about your yoga practice and your history with yoga. And also, I really am excited to talk about your book, the Honua book about the Hokulea, which when I saw the book, I was just blown away by it. It's so beautiful. And so this opportunity to actually speak with you is just, I'm so excited. So thank you, number one. Um, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling really great. I taught this morning and then I had a little bit of time and I just looked at the ocean and I was like, I got to get my face in it. So I just did this little walk down the cliffs and slashed my face in the ocean. Always good. Took my shoes off, one step away from like going in. I didn't have a bathing
Yes,
suit. I didn't want to go in my clothes, but
I
so I
hear
feel
you.
great. Yeah, I feel great.
Because you're in Los Angeles. The water's a little chillier there. So if you splash some Pacific Ocean
Oh
water
yeah,
on
it's
your
cold.
face, I'm guessing it feels refreshing.
It's refreshing. Yeah, it's probably about 63 right now, 64, the
Uh,
ocean.
we were out there 2 weeks ago, and Ethan, my son, was dying to go surfing, and we brought like a little spring suit for him. And so we went down to the beach at Newport Beach, and he went in, and he was like, "Well, how long can I stay out there?" And I said, "That was his first time going in the Pacific Ocean." I said, "I promise you, you're not going to want to be in there much longer than like 10 minutes in that little spring suit." And it was kind of rainy and cold at like 7:30 in the morning. And he did. He lasted about 5 or 10 minutes, and then he came up and he was all frozen. But I'm sure you have like a full suit, maybe some booties.
No, I don't wear any wetsuit.
Really, when you
I
when you and you do you
don't.
ocean swim in the winter? Or do you wait for the summer and
No, I
spring?
don't ocean swim in the winter. I just swim from probably May 1st to October, mid-October. Um, yeah, I have a little suit, but that's like I used that in South Africa on
Yeah.
the voyage when the water was 50.
Mm.
And everybody thought I was nuts. And I was, no, you have to go. Like if you go to a place that's near the coast, in my opinion, and you're not really there until you go in the ocean.
Yeah.
You can't just go, well, that's nice. That looks nice. It's like you have to get in.
Good point.
So yeah. So good
I
for your son. He got in.
he did it. Yeah, he can.
He got in. So he's like, yeah, fully
It's the real
connected.
deal. Yes.
Right?
Yes. And
Fully
Jennifer, I have a feeling that there's a good chance that some of our listeners don't know what the Hokulea journey and or the Hokulea is. And so I'm curious if you have a synopsis that you could share that explains the idea and the beauty behind the Hokulea journey.
okay, for sure. So in the 1970s in Hawaii, the Hawaiian language was nearly gone. Um, for decades, hula had been forbidden in the schools. You would get beaten. Their culture, which is really their soul, was getting more and more silenced. And Hokulea was created first as an anthropological um, question of um, did the Hawaiians settle the islands intentionally? There was this theory of, oh, they just drifted there, you know? So the Hokulea was built by a few people, but one of them was an anthropologist who had studied the ancient Polynesian crafts, which were double holed, like kind of like a catamaran, everything bound together, no nails, everything bound together by line, and two sails, crab claw sails. And it was also designed by a Hawaiian man who was a painter who had painted these voyages, right? And they built this Hokulea and they said, let's just see. Let's see if we can sail her to Tahiti, which is kind of a large task, but there is a through line if you catch the winds at a certain time. And so the Hokulea because they wanted to do it traditionally, it was sailed by a master navigator from Satawal. And because the Hawaiians had lost their navigational skills, you know, the compass came and then that was it, right? So they sailed traditionally by the sun and the moon and the stars and the swells and the birds. And since there wasn't any Hawaiian, they found a man who was a master navigator, Malpailuk, and he came and taught them, and they sailed to Tahiti.
Wow.
In 1975. And she has been pretty much, she meaning Hokulea, which is the name of the star that is the at the peak of Hawaii in the sky, which means the star of gladness. And she has been sailing for 50 years now. And I had the honor to document her voyage as she went around the world. She left the Pacific and went around the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a huge honor. How?
It was such an honor. It's exactly the right word. It was such an honor. It was such an honor.
I bet.
To be, yeah.
So the first time I heard about Hokulea was from surfing magazines here in Florida because of Eddie Aikau and learning like what a legend he was. And as a lifeguard on the beaches and specifically like Waimea Bay on Oahu, I think he saved something like more than 500 people's lives as a lifeguard, which is like, how's that even possible in a lifetime? And just the legend of him sailing on the Hokulea, and then it capsizing and him attempting to rescue people and him losing his life for the sake of others. And I remember just the whole myth and legend around Eddie just seems so bigger than life and just like a hero, just a true legend. And that was the first time I'd heard about this idea of sailing on the Hokulea. How did you first hear about it? What was your first interaction with learning about Hokulea?
Just going back to Eddie just for a moment, because it's hard to just move away from Eddie Aikau.
No, let's just sit around Eddie for a while.
I'm going to stay around Eddie for a little bit here. I met him when I was a teenager at Waimea.
What?
Just in passing, met him. And then the next year when he sailed on Hokulea and it capsized and he went for help, and he wasn't found.
Whoa.
He, you know, a lot of people know that expression, Eddie would go.
Yeah.
And people think that it means like, oh, Eddie would take the biggest wave. And it's like, no. Eddie would sacrifice his life.
Yeah.
For his friends. So every time we voyaged or the crew voyaged or we came into a circle, there were many prayers all the time. And you had, you know, there were some people who were Mormons and there were some who were more indigenous, you know, different, but the prayers encompassed everybody. And Eddie was always brought in.
Wow.
And yeah, so how I first came to see Hokulea was a friend from college. I went to UC San Diego. And I was, you know, in the ocean there too a lot. He was a surf photographer. And after college, he moved to the North Shore and was a photographer for Surfer and Surfing. And we've stayed in touch. It was just a passing email. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? He's like, oh, look at this. I took a picture of this today. What is that? And the picture was, it's just astounding. I have it here. The picture was this one of Hokulea, just in passing.
Oh, wow.
You know, oh, I was just taking a picture of this today.
Oh, right.
I was like, oh, wait.
Like,
and he said, and they sail without modern instruments and they're going around the world. And I think it'd be a great book. And I was like, you go, John. That is great. His name's John. I was like, go. Yeah. Hey, if you need help with that proposal, like, you know, he's a photographer. He's super articulate. But I was like, but if, you know, I do this writing stuff, you know, I write books. Let me know and I'll help you with a proposal. And he was like, no, I think it's the writer. I was like, no. I know it's a, anyway, that's how I first
That's
connected with the,
amazing.
yeah.
Wow. That makes sense. For those that are listening and not watching this conversation, the picture that you just held up, Jennifer, was like the beautiful green mountains of Hawaii in the background and this incredible ancient looking boat with these beautiful red sails kind of cruising, along the shore. It looks almost like a snapshot out of a different time period. It is,
Time
but,
period.
or I mean, it's modern, obviously, but it just sums
Mhm.
up our imagination of an ancient sort of landscape. So that's incredible. That's John? Is it Bilderback?
John Bilderback, right?
John Bilderback,
And
and because he is a legendary surf photographer. I mean, I see
he
you
is,
see his photos all over the place, like Surfer's Journal and
yeah,
all of our
he is.
favorite surf mags. I mean, he's been a legend in the surf world, in the photography world for a long time. That's
Yeah.
so cool. So you guys are hatching this idea,
Yeah, so
and
he says it'd be a great idea for Patagonia, and I said okay, and then we looked at the Patagonia outline, and it was clear that there would have to be a rider attached. And as I was looking at it, I was like, wait, we need to ask the Hawaiians for permission to
mm,
present Patagonia. Like
mm,
this, no, no, no. So Nainoa Thompson, who is the president of the Polynesian Voyaging Society, which the Polynesian Voyaging Society created Hokulea. He was on the canoe when Eddie was lost.
whoa,
And he was the first Hawaiian to sail in 600 years without modern instruments.
wow,
Okay. So I had to write a letter to him. And it took me, and I'm a quote unquote professional writer. It took me a month to get it right.
wow,
You know, to just how do you put yourself, how do I even approach this to say, do we have permission? Do I even have permission to ask to have permission? There
yeah,
were so many layers I felt of just like, this is so large and meaningful. And this canoe is such a unifier for Hawaiian people and all of Polynesia. She has ignited the indigenous original wisdom throughout Polynesia, all the way down to Easter Island.
wow.
So anyway, they said yes. And then once we had the yes from them that yes, you can follow us around the world and document us, then Patagonia said yes. And that was
Oh my
literally two
gosh.
weeks before they left on the start of the voyage. So it kind of, yeah.
Legendary. I mean, Patagonia is legendary too, just in the surf world for thinking about sustainability and ecology. And right now, what they're doing with developing Ulex for wetsuits instead of the neoprene and all the rubber that's involved in that is just so amazing. The story of the men that started Patagonia is incredible. Like those guys are legends.
Incredible.
So
It's such a great company. I believe in that company so enormously, really.
that's amazing, Jennifer.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I mean, so
Another honor.
you've lined up this incredible sponsor. You got permission from the Hawaiians, the locals. You have an amazing photographer,
Yeah.
and you have the writing skills. So what happened next? How did it
So
begin?
so we began and we charted out what places we thought we would go, and of course that would change. And you would think like, oh, we're gonna have a schedule, but then you soon realize like the whole idea of a schedule, it just depends on what the wind's doing. It depends on, you soon realize that like you may think that you're in control, but nature is in control, and nature is determining when you're going to sail, when you're going to fly, because we would fly to meet them, when you're going to do anything really is at the nod of nature, which is as it should be. So we went to America and Samoa, and then we went to Aotearoa, which is New Zealand, which was beyond the beyond. And I was, when you're with the Hawaiians going to these places, they had already arranged for it to be. The communities were ready to welcome them. They made sure the Hawaiians would say, "Do we have permission to come?" And so the communities that met them were the people of that place. So it wasn't your usual experience. It was very, very original, the original people, the people of that land and of that
Yes.
ocean.
Yes.
And there were many times where English was not being spoken. And we were in a forest in New Zealand, a kauri forest. And the Maori language is similar to the Hawaiian language, but not the same. So they were chanting back and forth and speaking. And I'm, as a, you know, I'm feeling everything because I'm feeling, I grew up in a house with many languages. My mom was from North Africa, so I'm comfortable being not understanding. Okay. And just reading the feelings, but then halfway through I'm going, I have to document this. I have to articulate this in English somehow, you know?
Wow.
And I think that's also where the yoga helped me, of just like intuiting by being in the place what
Mm.
it is. And then afterwards I would ask people in English, was this what was conveyed in this and this? And I was often right,
Mm.
which was incredible, because I wasn't trying to understand. I wasn't going, I need to understand it. It was like, no, just experience it. What is he feeling? What is she feeling? What is she saying? What is he offering? Like, just be in it. Don't try to grasp it, you know? And that's
Yeah.
yoga too,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I felt like a lot of things have prepared me for this project. And 20 years prior, I wouldn't have been mature enough to do the project, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So
amazing.
like,
I mean, I have I'm trying to paint a picture in my mind of, I have had the chance to go to North Island in New
mm,
Zealand, and it is beautiful. And,
mhm.
but the experience of actually experiencing it from the indigenous side
Yeah.
of things, I think would be something that we never, I don't even, I mean, that's such an incredible honor, and how lucky to have that
But
opportunity, because that's such a
yeah,
rare, that sounds like such a rare situation to be
it,
welcomed into that and to see that and to feel it.
yeah,
So pretty amazing, though. I agree, because that's such a huge responsibility from your side. So to
yeah.
be able to try to interpret that outside of the
Mhm.
realm of just interpretation of language, but more, like you said, the feeling of it
Mm,
is just amazing as well. So
yeah.
then I'm curious, after New Zealand.
So after New Zealand, and in every place, which was different than my journalism, but in every chapter that I wrote, I would send it to the whoever I interviewed and to the Hawaiian, saying, did I get this right? You know, don't, like, if it's not right, tell me how to, you know, make it right, because this was
Yeah.
really their story.
Yeah.
You know, it's not my story. You know, it wasn't
Yeah.
a first person narrative till the end when I sailed on the canoe. So from Aotearoa, New Zealand, then they went to Australia, and we met them along the Great Barrier Reef, and then they went up toward Bali, and then they went to Madagascar, and then they went around the Cape of
Oh,
South Africa,
which is harrowing, apparently. One of the
which
most
is like container
dangerous.
ships have been snapped in half. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, imagine selecting the crew for that 32-day voyage.
Well,
And we met them in Cape Town.
after
And
they made the passage, what was the reaction of the people, like when you
well,
got a
you
chance
know
to speak?
what's amazing too is, so people know, well, Desmond Tutu agreed that the canoe is a Cayman, right? The Archbishop and his daughter. But what's amazing, what was always really fun was there were people that knew the canoe was coming in, right? And then there were people who would just be like walking by, and they would go, what the heck, like, you know, just
Oh,
step into the ceremony. Like, suddenly it's like, why are these people, what is that? What is that vessel? You know, no matter who you were around the world, people would just stop and just be like mesmerized, and then often like choked up and
mm,
weeping,
yeah.
because there's such a purity to that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, we'd say, oh, well, they what? So South Africa, and then they crossed the Atlantic and they had never sailed through fog. One of
Uh,
the navigators said, well, the navigator in training, and they went to Brazil, and then we met them up in Cuba, which was
wow.
pretty incredible.
The photo in the
And
book of the Cuba picture with that castle and the moon and the
and
boat.
the
Oh my
and the
gosh.
fishing, I
That
know
just
it
looks
was just
like that looks
just like it
iconic.
was
Yeah.
it was just incredible. So we met them in Cuba, and then they went up the east coast of our country, our continent, and we met them in New York for World Oceans Day, and they had a presentation at the United Nations.
Wow.
Um, and then they came back down, and then we squeezed in Galapagos. I squeezed in whatever. It was the deadline got kind of crazy at the end. I had to finish the book, and then I had to go to usually I was taking 3 to 4 months to write a chapter because I needed to like do yoga, come home, do yoga, whatever. And then suddenly it was like, no, you have to write the last 2 chapters in 3 weeks.
Oh
the last
gosh.
the most
Yeah.
deep, right? I was like, okay. So Galapagos, and then Nainoa Thompson had a family emergency, so the crew that he was training, these people in their 30, 28, 30, he put the canoe in their hands. There were some original crew members on board who also, for safety, and then they navigated it to Rapa Nui, Easter Island, which is a tiny,
Wow.
tiny set. And then from there, then we met in Tahiti, and then I sailed from one island to another in Tahiti, and then they sailed home. And
Wow. Around the world journey. This is 2013 to
so
17.
2014 to 2017, and the leg that I sailed on had 5 of the original crew members,
Ah.
as well as Eddie Aikau's nephew.
Oh.
And
What was
when
can you yeah.
they told me I was going to be on the, and I was like, no, 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 like, go give it to give the place to somebody else. Like, I don't need the place. Like, I don't need the spot on the canoe. I don't, no, and then the captain didn't even respond to me. I was like, okay, you just say thank you and get on. And and what we were doing there was, before they left on the voyage, before they leave on any voyage, they go to a little atoll in Tahiti called Raiatea, and they go to a marae, which is like a temple, a sacred temple, and they ask permission from those leaders. And those leaders gave them a pahaku, which is a stone, and they said, this stone has the mana, the energy of this place. Take it around the world with you, and we'll be with you. And at the end of the voyage, bring it back to us. And if you don't bring it back, don't come back.
Whoa.
So we were bringing the pahaku back.
Whoa. And you
Yeah,
got to go on that. You got to sail on that leg of the trip?
on that leg of it. And
Jeez.
there's more stories than that, but they just have to, but do you see how it all
Oh my gosh.
connects?
Yes. Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
With
So can you explain some of the feelings that you had in that on that sailing journey, knowing that you're with, the legends, some of the originals?
it
And
was
yeah.
well, honestly, as such a I love swimming in the ocean, but I have gotten seasick. Great.
Oh,
I didn't get sick,
oh,
but that was my thing, was like, gosh, I
a little
really don't want to,
nervous. Yeah.
a little nervous. And then getting nervous makes you sick, right? So it was a little, my concern was like, I just don't want to be in the way. It's like, Jen's finally here, and she's like in the back, or you know what I mean. So so I was nervous about that, but then some other people were feeling bad, feeling sick. So I was like, okay, we're all humans. And it was just to talk with these original crew members on Hokulea about their first early voyages of the 70s. This one man I was speaking with, I said, you guys, were radical. Like you guys were like taking a stake and just like sticking it in the land, by doing the Hōkūle'a, like by just going like, no, this is ours and we're reclaiming it.
Yeah.
He goes, no, he goes, we were removing the stake from our heart.
Oh. Oh, geez.
And then you hear something in the sail and you go, the wind is shifting and suddenly it's pouring rain with the sun, like things like that. And just these moments of and now suddenly everybody's trying to take down the sails and change the sails, and it's like this, and then and somebody's singing a song.
Wow.
It was pretty incredible. Yeah.
I know that movies like Moana from Disney might be, stereotypical on some levels and stuff like that. But I think what it attempts to portray is this deep communication with nature. And did you have moments where you felt like you were getting a sense of the ability to communicate with nature in a way that maybe would only be inspired by being around people that are in the process of actively communicating like that, and that you got a chance to see something that you can't really access unless you're around people that take it deeply like that?
Yeah, it's kind of like it opens, it's like this veil is lifted, and like once you can see, and we were in New Zealand, and this may sound really trippy, but it was, and we
Yay, I like trippy stories.
it's not a big deal. I'm not going to be able to convey it as trippy as it was, but everywhere we stopped in New Zealand, we would we stopped, like, let's just pull over and go to like a restroom, right? And we both come out of our separate restrooms going, did you see the faucet in there? Like everything was made of a shell, and like there was just this attention to detail, right? And we came out. I remember we're like, oh, because we'd been driving a while and we didn't have a GPS, which was just seemed to be the way we traveled a lot. Just like, well, let's just go toward the sun. Let's just start to figure that out. And we just sat down on the grass, and there was this hill, and I just go, I'm looking at this hill, and it's these rocks, and it sounds, I go, John, check out those rocks. Like, tell me that that's not living. Tell me that's not living. Like, it was like, it wasn't like, I can't even explain what it was, but these rocks were like ancestral. They were like the, in Easter Island and Rapa Nui, it was like that. And they were just at the top, and it was just, and then you start going, I wonder what that's really called. I wonder what that hill is really called. No, everybody's forgotten what the name of, what is that hill? What are those rocks? So now when I look at landscapes, like I look at Catalina Island, I'm like, what's it really called? What's that isthmus called? What does it symbolize?
Yeah.
I don't just go, oh yeah, it's the bay where you put your boat. It's like, no, what? Like you start to see the larger landscape, and you also start to see how much we've ruined it.
Yeah.
And that's really hard when I would come back from these places and I would just come to LA. Thank God there's the ocean. And I would just go, oh my God, we've covered everything with cement. We just went, oh, we'll fix this. We'll just put cement over it. We'll just put cement over it. We'll just add more cement on top of the cement and fix it so we can get somewhere. And it's hard,
It is.
It's hard.
It is.
It's a hard reality, right?
Yeah.
But once you've seen, once you've sort of been kind of awakened in a way, you just start noticing and wondering, like, what was this originally before we came? Before, we lost it, or we didn't listen.
Yes.
Yeah.
It sounds like potentially you're a dreamer as well, Jennifer. Do you see a way back?
Do I see a way back, like how we can reclaim? You mean how?
Yeah, make amends and somehow
Well, I think people are starting to, I think it's just start to like listen and see what are these practices,
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's really just, I don't know. We all once came from somewhere, you know, long, long and long ago. We all came from, that was the thing in Africa too. Like people were crying every day. I wept every day. I was not prepared for that. My mom was from North Africa. South Africa is a whole different. Um, and, you know, we all came from there. And then man migrated out, but we lost the touch. So I think the way back is by listening to people who are still close to it.
Yeah.
We went to a conference. It wasn't really, in the United States term, we wouldn't call it a conference, but it was a gathering of people in South Africa. And these two, it was different nations, right? Not like tribes, but nations. And each tribe, nation, each people presented their chant, and Hawaiians presented theirs. And then there was a man and woman who were so old, in their 90s, and they were the last two people to speak that language.
Mm.
And their chant was barely a whisper. Like
Whoa.
you could barely hear them. And it was so, when you lose your language, when you lose what your real last name was, when you lose your sense of where you came in the earth or your relationship to the earth, you're losing a deep sense of yourself. And so I think that the indigenous path that people are starting to listen to can mix with science. It's not just throw it all away. You can't go backwards, but you can listen and incorporate.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Well
yeah,
said. Yeah, that's great
yeah,
insight. That's really cool, Jennifer. I'm
yeah.
so excited to have this opportunity. And then when I just heard, oh, I'm really thankful to Jen Taylor and Harriet Harris for introducing me to you and for setting this up. And they said, oh, she's a yogi. And then when I got a chance to see your website, jennifer-allen-practice.com, then I saw, oh, she's an Ashtanga yogi. And then I read that you practice with Chuck Miller and Maddie Ezrati. And my wife Tamara got a chance to practice with Chuck before, but I wasn't able to. And I have friends that lived in Santa Monica that used to practice with him, and the stories that would come out of their absolute just love for the experience of practicing at Yoga Works when it was just a room in Santa Monica was there. Everyone was just like always legendary. It's so great, it's so amazing in there. Can you tell me a little bit about your history with yoga and how you got into Ashtanga and then what you're currently up to?
Yeah. So my first yoga was actually at Jiva Mukti in New York with Sharon Gannon and David Life. And it was in the 80s in the basement of a church with about 6 people without
Wow.
any heat. Okay.
Wow.
There wasn't
Yeah.
yoga mats. This is really like, there wasn't yoga clothing, you know, and I don't know, I saw a flyer, something like Life Cafe, yoga, East Village. And I went to that class, and I mean, I'd stepped into another world entirely, right? And it was Ashtanga. I mean, I didn't even know what it was called. And I just sort of, I was a dancer and an athlete. So I know I know where my shoulder is, you know what I mean? I have some sense of like body awareness. So I was able to follow along, and it was 2 hours because that was basic. That's how long classes were then, hour and 45 minutes too. And I got out of there, and I lived in the West Village, and I walked the block, and I was like, I need a cab. I was so spaced out, man. I was just like, man, I can't.
Yeah. I need some help. I need some
I
help to
need
get
to
home.
help. I'm like, I don't know. I think the West Village is that way, but there's some blowing trash, and I need to get out of here. I need to get home. So I took a cab home, and then I just kept going back. And then they moved to a bigger place, and then I moved to LA, and then I just so happened to find Yoga Works, and it was Mati was more Iyengar, and Chuck was Ashtanga, and both very different teachers. And Eric Schiffman was there too at the time, and Rod Stryker.
Oh, wow.
And Brian Kest.
Wow.
And there was maybe, like, I mean,
The
when I
original
studied with
crew.
Chuck,
Yeah.
it was insane. When I studied with Chuck, there was just maybe just 10 people, right? And I just, through the Ashtanga and the Iyengar, you really learn, Iyengar teaches you placement in a way, and how to use props to help your placement. And Ashtanga is more like, this is where you are and just deal with it. You know what? Like you're going, put your arm over your head, put your hand flat on the floor, and then look up and just deal with the fact that you can't move.
Yeah.
And there's a benefit to both of like, make space, like allow yourself some space to move. And then there's a benefit of just going like, no, this is where you are. Both. So I did both.
Yeah.
And then I moved to San Francisco, and I went to this one class, and it ended up being Rodney Yee. It was just like, I've been so lucky, so lucky. And so that was, over 30 years ago. And I've gotten certified twice since then. The last time with Annie Carpenter, who was a student of Madi and Chuck. So I teach still because I love it so much, and I have such a long, deep history with it. And I work with a lot of sports teams because I grew up with sports. My dad was a professional football coach, and I was very competitive. I mean, the reason I kept going back to yoga is like it really pushed my buttons. We're just going to sit here, and we're going to sit here. So, so my how I teach probably incorporates, it's called vinyasa. I mean, you just go with what the studio is going to call it, right? Yeah. But it incorporates a lot of alignment and mindfulness. I studied with Chuck a couple years ago when he was in LA, and it was all teachers in there pretty much, right?
Yep.
And the first day we did a Tadasana for 3 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Do you know
just held
No, he didn't, because the pressure was building so much in the room. Like you couldn't for 3 hours. Like he would be like, you for 5 minutes, he would talk you through it, and then he would just go, okay, rest. And you'd be like, it was incredible. But he would talk about it. Like he would talk about the alignment, and then he would say like, what are you going toward? Like where is your energy moving toward? Is that moving you more towards your center? Or like then he would talk philosophy. I mean, it was unbelievable. Wow. It was unbelievable. And some people just didn't come back the next day. It was like, I wanted to do handstands. I want to do this. It was like, no, we're going to do mountain pose. We're going to talk about mountain pose. It was unbelievable. It was so good.
That's amazing, Jennifer.
Yeah.
I think that's what's so incredible about studying with these teachers that really practiced, like they truly practiced. It wasn't just a fashionable, like, let me take a weekend course and teach, and I haven't really practiced, like, and getting in their presence, you just feel it from, it sounds similar to the way you were explaining arriving in a different place on the Hōkūle'a and how you just had to feel it. And I think like that old school history from India feels like similar to that old school Hawaiian feeling that sometimes if we're lucky enough to get a little chance around it, you go, wow, there's something so much bigger than me here. That's amazing. That's so cool. Did you ever get a chance to study with Tim Miller down in San Diego?
No, I had been, I think I took one class with him. He was subbing for somebody at Yoga Works.
Nice. That's cool.
But, yeah. And, there was one time, and we used to practice facing one another. 2 rows facing one another. It's so good. I mean,
Did it-
I'll often think of some of my classes, like, I'm just going to make it like, I think people would
Let's do it.
crazy.
Yeah. Even though it's
But
like
we're just
totally
going to
against the
face each
grain.
other, but
Yeah.
don't look at them. Do you know what I mean? Like, and this one class, people think yogis have to be small or this or that. Like we have all like, I think the world and Instagram has all these ideas of what yoga is and what yogis are.
Yeah.
And I closed my eyes and there was nobody across from me. And I was like, great, right? I was like, great. This is, it was really quiet and we were all seated. And when some people come in late and they like drop their mat, drop their keys, they make so much, you open their eyes and they're like not these very large people. I opened my eyes and after this like 5-minute meditation, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was sitting across from me. He came in and didn't make a sound.
No way.
And then because he was so tall, he couldn't, the ceiling wasn't, he had to like use his arms like this because his arms would have gone through the ceiling. And then when you do the one-legged, Utthita Hasta Padangusthasana, the leg to the side,
Yeah.
if he would have done it, he would have knocked like 8 of us out. So he had to stop. But like some of the stuff was hard for him. Watching his humility and watching the grace in this very large person who's large. I think he's 7 foot. Is he not? At any rate,
I think maybe even taller.
7'2".
Yeah,
I know
I think
Chamberlain was 7'2", which is a very large human being that has to make his way in the world and be graceful and humble.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. I mean, you can learn yoga in so many ways. It doesn't just have to be in the room, in the studio, on your mat.
That's amazing, Jennifer.
Yeah.
I know we don't have enough time for me to take you down the track of another book that you wrote. I think that involves you talking about growing up with an NFL coach dad. So maybe if I'm lucky enough, I could have you back on the show, and we could go down another, hear more stories, more yoga, more stories about. But what do you when you work with athletes with yoga and maybe professional athletes? What sort of reaction do you get? What sort of approach do you take?
Well, the great thing about athletes is they're already aware of their body and their body parts, right? So there's already that awareness. I'm really I work with a lot of guy teams, and I have 3 brothers and I have 3 sons. So I'm very comfortable in a room full of 25 soccer players. This doesn't, but I'm really working with their minds in a way of just like, well, let's, when you hit the obstacle, how are you reacting? Like, what are your emotions and how, so watching when you get to the difficult poses, which might just be plank for 2 minutes or side plank for 2 minutes. How are you reacting emotionally? And is it helping you? So it's like yoga. They're getting a stretch, but they're also learning how they react to conflict, which is what competition is. It's enforced conflict, right? But in yoga, it's conflict with yourself in a way, like my shoulder. It's like, well, is that helping it? Like having this debate with your shoulder, or you know what I'm saying?
Good point.
So I talk a lot about that, and it's really great for them to do something that isn't what they usually do together. I think it unifies them in a different way too. And they all, some of them first, they come in and you can tell they're just the coach is making us do yoga. And within 10 minutes, I do some really hard, just core stuff.
Yeah.
Like really hardcore. You've won their attention, and you kind of earn their attention in a way too, by because if you just ask them to lay down and do mellow stretches, they're just going to space out. I want them to be focused, like you have to be in a game.
Amazing, Jennifer. Did growing up with a professional coach dad, did he ever sit you down and say, hey, Jennifer, let me tell you a little bit about my strategy with coaching a team? do you feel like you learned any of that from him, or maybe just more intuitively around him, kind of the way like you were expressing
Um,
learning by just not
no, he
understanding?
didn't. He was known as a really great psychologist, but we never ever talked football.
Yeah.
I know, weird. Like now that you ask that, I'm going, no, that never
Oh
happened.
no.
But so I think it's just watching myself learn yoga,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I was a sprinter, so I'm all about like shoot the gun. I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta go. Just shoot that gun, right? So I already have the focus, but I'll just run a straight line as fast as I can.
Mm.
And so to have to like down dog, I remember it took me 10 years to like accept it.
Yeah.
Just like, we're doing this again.
To accept the down
For how
dog.
long? We just did that. We're doing it again. You know what I mean? Like, I was that person in
Yeah.
yoga. We'd have
Yeah.
this inner dialogue, like, "Are you kidding me?" I was like, "No, just do it." But I
That's
also have incredible discipline, right? I have a lot of self discipline, so that's what I love. That's what kept me coming back.
yeah.
And athletes have a lot of self discipline too. So if you can, approach it as a sense of a discipline and as a self discipline, you know, that that really resonates.
That's amazing. I mean, anytime I see someone put together a book, or read a book and think about what the process would be to actually get organized enough to put a book together, I always just think that seems like Superman or Superwoman coordination, organization, that type of thing, focus. It seems like you were born with that. You must have been,
Well, it's
or is it all cult? It's a
organized.
combo.
I'm pretty organized. I have a pretty organized house, but my creative process is very disorganized. You know,
An
so when
organized
I
house,
teach,
but yeah.
I teach writing workshops and I teach yoga. And so some of my yoga students have taken my writing workshop, and I go, now this may seem a little like bipolar, but let it rip. You know what I mean? Like it's totally. So I think I like the yoga to contain things. I like the order to contain things. Then once I write, it's like you really gotta, like stand in that forest and just like feel it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but when you're given material like I was given, if you have the skills to write and you have the experience to listen and to observe, because yoga is observing, it's awareness. Writing is observing, reporting is observing and awareness, like noticing, like, oh, his shoe is not tied the same on each side.
Mm.
Like a detail. The details, that's Mati, the details. Um, and then you're given material that's amazing. It's like the job is to just not mess it up. You know what I mean? Like I mean, I was given amazing material. I was put in amazing
Mm.
places. Just don't mess, like, just be aware. It's
Yeah.
not about you. The
Yeah.
down dog's not about you, right? It's not about you. It's not
That's
about you.
great. I love it. I
Yeah.
I don't want to take us down a sad path, but I am curious. Were you
Yeah.
heartbroken when you heard about Maddie's passing in Japan?
Yeah. I was actually going to study with her, like right after that in LA. And I had gone back and studied with her a couple of times when she came to LA. And um, I, I was, I was, I was shocked, but I was also like in awe of how clean her exit was.
Mm.
You know, I
Mm.
mean, as Chuck said, it's like her container just couldn't contain all her energy. And it was it was a loss of knowledge. I mean, there's not another teacher like her. You're not gonna. I mean, I was watching a video this morning of her teaching. It's nobody's gonna have that. Nobody else is gonna be that. I mean, we're all original, right? But she was able to really share that and convey it and go around the world. So personally, I was sorry for the yoga community, for me, for everybody who wants to learn how to actually do things from a classical way. Um, but for her, it was like, man, how clean.
Yeah.
Like, you taught a workshop, you know, I mean,
That's beautiful. Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, I
Yep.
mean, I don't know exactly what happened. She must have just had, I don't know what happened.
Yeah. I didn't hear about
But
the details either.
no, but it was swift.
Yeah.
It was swift and unknown. Which is, when you, as you get older, you go, yeah, that's pretty clean. It's hard on everybody around. And my dad was a quick, unknown, sudden death. It's really hard on the people around them. But then as you get older, you just go, man, he just like went, oh, and then he
Yes.
was on his way, I mean,
What are your thoughts about, now we're getting a little deeper, but like this idea of the yogi having the ideal of getting some sort of intuitive understanding that, oh, I'm being called. It's my time. Let me lay down, or let me sit in Padmasana, and like have the
yeah,
Mahasamadhi, like all right,
yeah,
it's now my time.
knowing it's time.
I'm ready to
I,
exit. You know, and
I think,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think people probably do know it's time,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and it's the ultimate let go, isn't it?
yeah.
It's the ultimate let go, you know.
Good point. Good point. Well, the good news is we have another day. We have
Exactly.
another day to converse. And I'm so thankful for this opportunity, Jennifer. You're
I'm so glad.
fascinating. You have some amazing stories, and we probably haven't even really gotten started yet. But I want to be respectful of your time, and thank you so much for niching some time out for us. And I mean, you shared so many great little tidbits of wisdom and insight. Is there anything that pops in your mind in relation for a great way to close our conversation today?
A great way to close our conversation.
Because I'm at a loss. I don't I don't know what to say now. No, I'm kidding.
Well,
But yeah, I'd like to hear
I think
what pops in your head. Yeah.
namaste and aloha,
Mm,
honestly. Um, they're both a reverence for the other, and I think when you're saying like what's our way back to understanding indigenous, or, you know, I think it goes both like being respectful each way, and I mean, I just wonder what it would be like if everybody in the US said to each other namaste when they saw each other, and meant it, or aloha when they saw and meant it. A lot of people do mean hi, how are you, but just took that time and that presence to aloha,
mm,
namaste. I think we would be in maybe a little bit of a better place.
yes.
Yeah. And I appreciate you. I so enjoyed talking with you. So thank you for dialing me up and pulling me on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Awesome,
Really
Jennifer.
appreciate it.
I think I figured out the title for the podcast is going to be Namaste and Aloha.
Yay. I like that.
All right.
All right.
Well, I will stay in touch, and
Okay.
I
Great.
can't wait till next time. Next time we're in California, I definitely want to come take your class, but you have
Yeah.
to promise me that you're only going to make me hold Samasthiti or
Namaste.
Tadasana. Just like if I show up, just be like, oh, today we're all going to face each other, and the only pose we're doing.
That's good.
All
Let's
right.
do it.
All right. You
You'll give me
promise.
a
All right.
reason.
The other people in the class might not like it, but
That's okay.
I like the idea of that challenge. I love it. The simplicity of just
Yeah. Yeah. Just stand there. Stand in yourself.
just stand there.
Stand in
Well,
yourself.
yeah. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jennifer. Well, aloha and namaste.
Namaste.